Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well,
Good to go.
welcome to how to activate your stem cells organically. I'm Dame Lillian Walker, and I am a holistic care practitioner. I actually repattern the brain from physical and emotional trauma, and I use stem cell activation as a tool to help people in my practice repair, restore, and regenerate their bodies to a younger, healthier state. So let's go ahead and get started here today. And before it's funny that's not framed properly. I don't know why that is, but I am having an event at the end of April, the last Saturday of April, where you are going to be able to not only have your stem cells activated through stem cell activation patches, but you'll also do it under the EE system. It's an overnight event where you will be able to not only learn about the patches, get patched, but also be in the EE scalar energy system from Saturday at 6 p.m. until Sunday at 8 a.m. So if you're interested in that, let me know. There's only 10 spots. There's only 6 spots that are available at this point in time, because 4 people have already registered. And just contact me at this number here.
This Saturday?
No, it's not going to be here. It's going to be in Newport Beach. In Huntington Beach, excuse me. In Huntington
okay.
Beach. Yeah, it's going to be in Huntington Beach at the EE scalar system in
Right,
Huntington
right.
Beach. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to talk about stem cell activation. Before we start, we're going to talk about our little disclaimer. We have a good relationship with the FDA, and we want to keep it that way. So the patches are not intended to treat, prevent, or cure any disease. We do not heal, cure, treat, or diagnose anything, nor do we offer any protocols. The suggestions do not replace the diagnosis and treatment by a licensed healthcare professional. That would be your doctor. And we strongly recommend you consult with your doctor concerning your specific health challenge and treatment needed. No medical claims are being made. These organic methods using this photobiomodulation patches are not made for a condition or a disease. They are general wellness products, okay? And so, okay, so let's talk about how all of this is possible. So back in 1973, Dr. Lauren Picard discovered that when he used GHK-SU copper peptide, that actually activated 1/3, that's 33% of previously dormant stem cells. And that was absolutely something monumental. We're in 2024 now, and that was back in 1973. If you think about it, prior to that, that was a new discovery, right? And so that brings us to the point where we would ask, what are stem cells? Because most people don't talk about stem cells on a regular daily basis. Well, if you look at the DNA, your mother's ovum unites with your father's sperm. We're going to go ahead and actually jump to this slide and see if we can go back. No. Okay. And your mother's ovum unites with your father's sperm. Come on now. It's not working. It's cool. I'll have to use the static version of this. But anyhow, when your mother's ovum unites with your father's sperm, at conception, you now have 23,688 genes and stem cells. That is all the original blueprint that will form you in your mother's womb. And so you begin that rapid cellular multiplication. You grow into an embryo. 6 to 8 weeks later, you have this embryo where the little heart is already beating. Brain's not formed yet, but your heart's beating. Fast forward 36 to 40 weeks. Now you've grown into a fetus, and then you're a newborn baby. We take a few trips around the sun, and now, of course, we're sitting here in LA watching this presentation. And by the age of 25, you have your fibroblasts already are beginning to decline in their production of collagen in the body. Collagen is the #1 building block protein of the body. And then by the time you're 30 years of age, 50% of your original stem cells that you were conceived with and brought into this world with, 50% of them turn off. Not because they're damaged, not because they've disappeared, not because they're destroyed. They simply just go dormant because of age. And for every decade of life that you remain alive, for every decade, more and more of those stem cells turn off, to the tune of, by the time you're 60 years of age, 90% of your stem cells turn off by the time you're 60 years old. And now those 10% of those stem cells, which are like your construction workers that do the remodeling inside and outside of your body, have to take you to the finish line until you take your last breath. So, apologize, developed a little bit of a cough here. So anyhow, your body is like your home. Your body really is your temporary housing unit, and it's housing the energy, the personality, that is you. And so if you think of the body as your home, you're going to notice that your stem cells are very much like printer ink cartridges in a copy machine. Because when you have a brand new ink cartridge, whether it's color or black ink, and you make photocopies, those photocopies are indistinguishable from the original when you have 100% of the ink. Just like when you are first born and as you're a child and you're a teenager and in your 20s, you have 100% of your stem cells that are operating for you. And so you have perfect copies, basically. You can't tell an original versus the copy at that point. But once you start to get, at 30 and 40, you're still doing okay. But once you're hitting 50, 60, 70 years of age and you're getting to that 90% mark where 90% of your stem cells have turned off, now you only have 10% of the ink in your cartridges left. What happens? When you make a photocopy and you only have 10% of the ink left in a cartridge, that copy is a faded version of the original, right? You can see a big difference whether it's a color copy or a black and white copy. In fact, black and white copies don't even look black. It's like gray and sometimes even pink lettering instead of black ink because it's so faded. And the same thing is true with your stem cells until you apply, of course, a stem cell activation patch. So that brings us to how do the patches work? So this is an organic method of photobiomodulation. So let's talk about how the patches work and what photobiomodulation is, because photobiomodulation is kind of a large word, not something that we use in our everyday language, but it's simple. Photobiomodulation is, photo means light, biological, because we're biological beings. Modulation simply means movement and change. We are infrared light beings. We are light bodies, quite literally. This is not just something, the mystics and the ancients have known for thousands of years that we are light beings. Science is the contemporary language of mysticism. Science is only 300 years old, but the mystics, whether it's, for example, the Egyptians, the Incas, the Mayas, the Taoists, the Buddhists, the Shaolin monks have known for thousands of years that we are light beings. And in the last 300 years, now we have medical devices and different measuring devices that we can actually measure the light in the body. Of the 56 trillion cells that we have in the human body, every single one of them have electrons. Our blood, our cerebrospinal fluid have electrolytes. So electrons and electrolytes both are packets of electricity. And the band of light that we have that's been measured inside of our body is the infrared light band of light, which really coincides with the infrared light that we get from the sun, which the sun happens to have 42% infrared light. So the way the patches work is we are the battery that operates this FDA compliant class 1 medical device. And so the infrared light from your body, once you apply this organic nanotechnology using photobiomodulation, you're applying it on a traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture point, your infrared light simply bounces off of the crystal lattice and reflects back up to 4 inches deep through the tendons, ligaments, bone marrow, goes down into the cellular level of the body and begins this immediate rapid repair. And it activates with the mother stem cell activation patch, it actually activates GHKCU copper peptide. Again, think back of what I just shared before. Dr. Lauren Bacart is the one who discovered that GHKCU copper peptide could actually turn on 33% of your previously dormant stem cells, activating the P63 protein, by the way. So let's talk about this crystal technology, because the crystals are just the mechanical device to reflect back the light. Those crystals are not absorbed into the body. So we'll talk about that later, but the mechanics of those crystals. You look at a crystal, And if I were to take a flashlight and I were to, oh, it's not doing it here. Well, you'll have to play pretend and make believe, because my original presentation had a button where you could see it shining. But basically, you can use your imagination. Just play pretend and make believe that I'm flashing a flashlight onto that diamond crystal. And of course, anytime you do that to a diamond crystal, you immediately have the reflection back to your eyes of all the different, light colors of the prism is reflecting back to your eyes. The same thing is true with these patches. When your infrared light that's coming from your body, the moment we put this mechanical device on your skin, it immediately reflects back your infrared light bands back into your body, creating this rapid repair, regeneration, and restoration inside of the body. Okay, so before I go on to a little bit about phototherapy, I just wanted to show you guys, this is what the patches look like. That white dot isn't just a white dot, those are actually crystals. Those crystals are organic sugar crystals, organic salt crystals, organic hydrogen, oxygen, and water crystals, and a proprietary blend of organic amino acids. Those crystals have all been programmed, and they're programmed with a specific frequency, and then they are arranged in a very precise geometrical grid pattern to create the effect of activating 1/3 of your previously dormant stem cells. We have a whole suite of 11 different types of patches. Today I'm primarily focusing on the mother cell activation patch. We'll talk a little bit about what the daughter stem cell activation patch does. But this one activates GHKCU, copper peptide. I want to talk a little bit about phototherapy and photobiomodulation. And while phototherapy, it has been defined as the use of ultraviolet light for its healing effects, these patches have been specifically developed to reflect light in the infrared and visible bands back onto the skin where the patches have been placed. These patches work anywhere on the human body. Although we apply them on traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points to magnify the effects of the patches on the body, you can put them under your feet, you can put them on top of your head, anywhere on the body. Since we're all infrared light, they're activated anywhere you have them on the body. So, supported by normal electrodermal skin conductance, the human body gives off a number of materials biochemically, including particulate release, just tiny little particles, right? Gas emissions, ultraviolet, infrared, near-infrared light bands, producing improved physiological effects, and variations on phototherapy have been used for at least 100 years. Some research papers say, however, we have the first documented use of photobiomodulation, which I'll share with you in just a moment. In that time that we've used photobiomodulation in hospitals and in clinical settings, there's been very little documented side effects, if any, at all. So it's a very safe manner of using infrared light therapy. So the first documented use of photobiomodulation was actually in 1895. That's well over 100 years ago, right? You know, it wasn't at the turn of 2000, it wasn't it was 1895. And in fact, in 1903, Niels Ryberg Finsen actually won the Nobel Prize for his research using red light, photobiomodulation, to treat tuberculosis of the skin. Pretty remarkable if you think about it. That was well over 100 years ago. And it's just now that people are starting to get the whole idea of using infrared light and using photobiomodulation in all sorts of different means and methods, but the bottom line is that it's activating your stem cells, right? So in his experiments with mice, Finsen found that exposing them to red light reduced both their symptoms as well as their mortality rate from lupus vulgaris. Pretty mind-boggling if you think about it, that he was able to discover that so long ago. So I want you to notice that these are, first of all, our products are made in FDA-registered facilities. We get inspected basically every other year. Notice that they're non-transdermal. What does that mean? Non-transdermal simply means that nothing transfers into the dermis, and the dermis being the skin. They're non-invasive. Nothing is invading the skin either. Even though these crystals are organic sugars, organic salt, organic hydrogen, oxygen, water, crystals and a proprietary blend of organic amino acids. That is not absorbed by the skin. That's not the function of this patch. Those crystals are simply mechanical devices to reflect back your own infrared light. So unlike other products that use infrared light that's outside of you, we're basically recycling your infrared light with a very specific signal based on the frequency and the pattern of this crystal lattice to do a very specific effect. We manufacture our products at FDA-registered facilities in the U.S., and our facility in Ireland is registered with the Irish Medicine Board. We manufacture our products to the same standards as a medical device, and in fact, our facility is ISO 9001 and 13485 compliant, and those are quality standards. Speaking of water, I need a little bit of water myself right now, so excuse me just for a second. Okay, so one of my objectives today is to make sure that you have at least one or two takeaways that you take with you that you implement immediately. One of the hallmarks of health and well-being, and we've known this for a very long time, well over 50, 60 years, is that it's important to keep the body hydrated. When we come out of our mother's womb, we come out of this beautiful, juicy amniotic sac where we were inhaling and exhaling water. We were primarily composed of water, to the tune of when we are born, we're about 82, 83% water. And as we age, we have less and less water makeup in our body. Yet, from conception until we take that last breath, our DNA is still 92% water, which what that means is that because our DNA, it's a great energy conductor because it's 92% water, but water, in fact, is the primary structure that holds up your DNA so that your DNA has the proper structure. You have that beautiful figure 8 and that helix structure in the DNA. We've known in health and wellness circles as well as in athletics, we know that drinking 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water is just the genesis and the foundation to maintain well-being. Unlike other mammals, humans, we can override our natural instincts for thirst, and we can substitute food and munchies, munchies being a technical term, but we will sometimes fool ourselves, and instead of drinking water when we're feeling thirst, we'll eat food, which doesn't help us. What we need is water. Animals, on the other hand, anybody who's had a cat or a dog knows, if they run out of water in their bowl, they will find water somewhere in the house, places you would not think of. We've all seen and heard of dogs who will open up either a toilet bowl lid or the toilet bowl lid is open, and they'll get their water from there because they know that they have to maintain a certain amount of hydration. They don't override their instinct and eat instead. They always adequately, hydrate themselves. And if you're not sure that this is a big deal, one of the things that I want to impress upon you is that when you become hydrated, all sorts of things in the body begin to shrink, much to your detriment as well. First thing is that at 2% dehydration, you will start to feel parched and thirst in your actual mouth. That's 2% dehydration, which is already signaling to you that there's a compromise taking place in your body. And then the next thing to know is that your proteins inside the body, when you are dehydrated or unhydrated, the proteins of the body fold. They actually are not properly working because they actually fold, they stop to work, and because of that, that is the genesis and the beginning of not only symptoms in the body, but now you're having the decline of whatever the weakest organ in the body is. That's going to take the first hit, and then that organ system that's around that organ is going to also start to be compromised and only get worse, much worse. So drinking water is very of paramount importance. I already mentioned also that your DNA is an energy amplifier, and now that you're aware that your DNA is actually 92% water, only 8% is other, it makes sense that it's an energy amplifier. You can understand and recognize how it works with the light inside your body to conduct and move electricity, electrons, electrolytes, etc. So I don't know why it's not showing on the screen. I'm going to show my laptop because you're supposed to be able to see here Let me see if it's, okay, it is showing. So in this slide, I want to share with you guys, I talked about how at 2% dehydration, you notice thirst in your mouth, right? At 8% dehydration, this person on the left-hand side, they have hydrated themselves where they're drinking 50% of their weight in fluid ounces of water. So you see that they have the beautiful figure 8 helix structure of the DNA. It's actually properly structured. The person here on the right, they're 8% dehydrated, and you can see that their DNA is starting to unravel. So when you reach 8% of dehydration, your DNA starts to unravel. It's being compromised because water's being pulled from it. Obviously, this is a greater progression of disease and problems in the body. At 10% dehydration, your brain doesn't work properly. Your brain is a very hydrophilic, it's a water-loving organ. So at 10% dehydration, you lose your mind. Your brain cannot process and recall and do its proper functions because it's being deprived of the water that it needs in order for it to function properly. And at 12% dehydration, it's all over. Your body shuts down, it doesn't work, you're dead. Nobody can survive 12% dehydration. The other thing to note is that part of the natural process of the body, without the patches, your stem cells are there, they're pluripotent. Pluripotent means it has many potentials. That's why I like to call your stem cells your master smart cells, because at the moment that you had conception, you have complete information to the tune of 23,688 genes and stem cells, all the information that you'll ever need to not only create you as a human being, but also to maintain you, to regenerate you, to restore you for your entire lifetime is in that original code, that original blueprint. When we activate your stem cells, your body needs a certain level of hydration, which again, that's why I'm trying to impress upon you how important it is to drink good water. If you're improperly hydrated and you're lacking hydration, what happens is your stem cells go to still make that new cell that's damaged. Maybe it identifies that you have some sort of damage in your heart, and it goes to create a cell, and instead of that cell immediately getting to the heart where it needs to go, it gets stuck to whatever other cells that have been created that are in queue. You have this Rolo effect where one cell starts stacking itself in front of another because they just start sticking next to each other because you're dehydrated. Now, the simple solution is just simply to get hydrated and to drink water. As soon as you do that, then now everything is fluid. You can think of it like your bloodstream becomes like this, instead of being kind of a thick, viscous, sticky, clumpy thing, now you have your blood fluid. It's like a river of water that's just able to move the energy to wherever it is that it needs to go, okay? So kind of disturbing to think that your DNA starts to basically fall apart at 8% dehydration. So we can start to understand why it is, in fact, so important to make sure that we keep ourselves properly hydrated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So the patches, again, these are just a mechanical device that redirect your own infrared light to create this activation inside of your body. And our bodies are on a 24-hour cycle. We're basically entrained to the rhythms of the sun, because we have basically from sunrise to sunset, we have our sympathetic nervous system where we're alert, we're awake, we've got that beta, like in the midst of this presentation, we have a beta brainwave state because we're learning something new and you're alert. And then you have from sunset to sunrise, where you have your parasympathetic system, which is your rest and your digest system. And so you're going to be wearing these patches every morning. You simply apply, as you can see here on my wrist, I have a patch here. The moment you apply this patch, that immediately starts that cellular repair, you start that stem cell activation, and things start to move and groove throughout your body. So you're going to be in sync with the hours, with your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. You'll wear it for 12 hours, and then after 12 hours, let's say from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 9 p.m. your alarm goes up, remove the patch, you take it off, and now you're allowing for the matching, equally as important, your rest, your repair, and your restore cycle. So you can kind of think of it as you have your home and you've decided you're going to do a full remodel. Ceilings, floors, you know, you're taking them down to the studs, the walls, you're doing your kitchen, your bathroom, your plumbing, you're doing your siding, the roof of the house, landscaping, everything. You're doing a complete remodel. You have contractor A who says, okay, I'm going to bring 10 of my guys over to do your remodel. It's going to take me 7 years to do the entire remodel. We're basically taking everything down to the studs and everything's going to be brand new when we're done. And now you have contractor B, the better contractor, that he shows up, and he shows up with 43 guys, and he says, oh, you know what? We can do this job and we'll be done in about, say, 12 to 18 months. We should be able to have everything done. Now, obviously, contractor B, he's going to have more attention to detail. He's going to be more efficient, get it done, you know, collapse the time frames. Instead of it taking 7 years, he can do that in 12 months to 18 months. He can do it much more quickly and efficiently, probably more cost effectively as well, because he has a crew of 43 as opposed to a crew of just 10. To make the math easy, because I don't know everybody's age here, but let's say you're 60 on up, that means you have 10% of your stem cells left. So the moment you apply this patch, you started your construction crew where now you have 43 to 50% of your original stem cells that are activated to repair, restore, and regenerate your body to a younger, healthier state. So I want to, for a show of hands here, how many of you have aches or pains or any kind of chronic inflammatory conditions in the body, by a show of hands? Okay. So what I'd like to do is take a few minutes here, and for those of you, you should really raise your, I think it was almost everybody here has something, so, okay. So what I'm gonna do, does anybody have a headache or a migraine?
Headache.
You have a headache? Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll patch you. So this is the mother stem cell activation patch, pluripotent phototherapy patch. Sometimes they're even called orthomolecular patches. If you have a crooked spine, it will straighten out your spine, and it only takes about, well, to visibly see the correction and the straightening out of the spine. Well, I'll be showing you some pictures of some folks that I've patched. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to patch you. What's your name? Is Professor Raj?
Ron, yeah, Ron. Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay, Ron. Okay, so we're going to put the mother cell activation patch on him, and then we're also going to use the pain management patches. So I'm going to put this on your neck bone. Do you mind coming up here and sitting for a second, and then I will, if you allow me, I'll put that on you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll put the mother cell activation patch. We just twist it, take the backing off. And so I'm going to put this on his neck bump. If you all want to take your dominant hand and touch the back of your neck, and when you touch the back of your neck, you're going to go to the bottom, and you keep on going to the bottom where you reach the top of your spine. That neck bump, that is called governing vessel 14. A very powerful acupuncture point. That acupuncture point is, that neck bump is where your brainstem goes down into your spinal column to signal your spinal cord, and it connects to your autonomic nervous system to send signals to the entire body. Very, very powerful acupuncture point. So I'm going to use this patch on that point. Of the 90 independent clinical studies that we've had done in the United States, Europe, as well as Asia, we had all of the research subjects and the controlled double-blind placebo subjects.
Mercury retrograde.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
It's on airplane mode, so I'm like,
Crazy communication.
so I'm not sure how that happened. Because I thought the whole objective of putting it on airplane mode was for that not to happen.
Yeah, well, you know.
So, but I also couldn't turn the phone off either, which I think is kind of weird too. How can you not turn your phone off? Power button doesn't work, and it's a new phone. Go figure. Too much energy, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're kicking it.
Okay, so I should call you doctor, not professor, right? Doctor. Doctor on. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on your neck bun. Okay. And so right there. And what would you say is your pain level from 0 to 10? Did you say?
4.
About a 4. Okay. So we're going to see. This takes about. It can take 30 seconds. It could take up to 3 to 4 minutes. Everybody's different. The next patch that I'm going to put on him This one doesn't repair anything. It's the only patch we have that does not repair anything. It turns off your pain receptors. So the therapeutic effect that it has is just simply turning off pain receptors. And I've had people who've had stage 4 metastasized breast cancer with cancer in the bones, who are on 3 narcotic drugs, as well as a fentanyl patch. We know how strong and how detrimental. It's an effective pain reliever, but it's very hard on your liver and your kidneys, right? Especially long-term use of fentanyl. And I was successfully able to not only bring her pain level down, but within less than a month's time, she was off of all narcotics and the fentanyl patch. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead. This ice wave patch, which is the pain management patch. Ice wave is for humans. It's the exact same patch, but the packaging, you have to have it different for animals, so veterinarians can use it on horses, cats, dogs, you name it. Same thing, it's called Aculite, but it's this patch. And it's a 2-patch system because, as you may or may not be aware, your body has polarity. You have a positive and a negative charge. Electrons, of course, there's protons and electrons. There's negative and positive charges. So we're going to be moving the energy to turn off the pain receptors with this patch. It's a 2-patch system. The tan patch goes always on the left. The white always goes on the right. This is a negative charge. This is a positive charge. So it's a pull and push energy system to turn off the pain receptors of the body. So what I'm going to do is, because he has a headache, he's got head pressure and a headache, interestingly enough, just like our AV guy. So I'm going to put the tan one on his left temple. So I'm going to go ahead and put this right on the left temple. You know that on the temple, it's a very thin skin, very close to the brain. And then we'll take this one. And I don't know, were you able to notice any kind of a feeling when I put the first touch on you? Some people will feel the energy, some people don't. It's just everybody's different. We'll give that 30 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll check to see what your pain level, you said originally it was like a 4.
4,
Yeah,
yeah.
like a 4, so we'll see. So we're gonna continue on, and we'll just let you rest and relax, and you might want to drink some water. There's some water there in the back of the room, just to make sure that those stem cells have the fluidity and they can move around, move and groove, right? Okay. So,
Excuse me. How does that work for injuries? Like, especially what we're talking about on the neck.
on the neck.
I had a neck injury, including bone spur. I had no pain from it, but on occasion you do. But as far as repairing injury,
So because this is your original master smart cells from when, it was not from when you were born, this was from conception. This works very well to, whether it's cartilage, whether it's bone, whether it's a spinal cord. I have a gal who had severe neck pain. She had cord impingement. That means that there was a compromise at every juncture where she had a disc in her neck. So each one of those vertebrae were pinching the spinal cord, and then her C5 had severed. She was in terrible pain, and she also had paralysis below the neck because that disc had actually severed the spinal cord. And in 18 months, she grew back her spinal cord, and then the discs started to get replenished. Many people don't know this about bones, but bones are the only, you can't heal a bone. But bones, by nature, because they're semiconductors and actually transmit quite a bit of electricity through the body, they regenerate. So I like to tell people the best way to think about your bones is that, first of all, bones that have become porous can become dense again with the proper signaling. And you can regenerate and you can grow bone. Typically, bone will grow about 3 centimeters over a 2-year period. That's the schedule. Of the 56 trillion cells in your body, everything has a different schedule. So for yourself, because you have that injury, that can be corrected. It can be corrected because it's going to be repaired and restored based on your original blueprint. Your stem cells are going to fill in anything that's missing, anything that has deteriorated. It's going to replenish it and repair it and restore it. And so what happens is, if you have pain, if you have the inability to move a certain way, you'll regain function and the pain will go away. And if you have x-rays of what it used to look like before you started on the patches, and you compare 90 days later, 6 months later, 9 months later, you will see the improvement that's documented, or through a PET scan. There's different ways of doing that, but yeah. So the answer is yes, you can benefit from that greatly.
You have glutathione on that slide. Does it help stimulate glutathione production as well?
So yes, actually, it was one of the things that I was going to be getting to, the detox aspects of this, because this mother cell activation patch actually increases your natural glutathione levels by 30%, just this one alone. Bear in mind, we're not putting into your body any glutathione. It's going to activate your original glutathione levels 30%. Then we have a separate patch called the glutathione patch. We have 3 of them that are the master antioxidants of the body. So that glutathione patch will turn on your original glutathione levels from conception, and the research studies show that it'll go up anywhere from 300 to as high as 600% within 24 hours of you wearing the patch. So when you, let's say if you wear this, like I wear that glutathione patch with this patch every day. So I wear like 6 patches every day. You're looking at somebody who in 2017, I had brain damage. 2017, I had brain damage, 18, 19, 20, 21, until 22, which is when I started the patches. I no longer have brain damage. When I was hit by a bus, just 3 blocks shy of finishing a 16-mile bike ride, I was hit from behind. The impact was on my head, pushed my head down, also hit my back, and I was very fortunate that my legs weren't crushed because it was an Orange County Transit Authority bus that hit me. And I went flying. I thought it was going to crush my feet. Somehow I was catapulted up. Don't know how I didn't break any bones. I had a horrible neck injury, my C5, C6, my lower back, L1, L5, and I also had, I no longer have, I can wear skirts now again, because for years I couldn't, because I had a terrible laceration from my ankle all the way up to my knee. And as you can see, you can't really see that you can still see a difference, but it's gets less and less and less. So you can definitely see I still have discoloration. And so in time that will go away too, but I had a raised scar, and in the first 4 months, the bone filled in, which I was kind of surprised that it went flat instead of it being a wiggly scar that I had prior to that. And then in the first 3-4 months, it probably shrunk 30 to 40%. That was the first thing. It shrunk, and then it went flat. And then it was a very dark brown, and then it just kept on getting lighter and lighter and lighter. From brown, I went to tan, to lighter tan, to lighter tan. And then instead of it being a continuous scar, it was like dashes. And then before I knew it, it was like gone, and I just had a little discoloration left. But you can't really tell that I had a laceration from my ankle to my knee, which I think is like, considering that I went to 3 scar revision specialists, and all 3 of them said, well, first of all, you're always going to have a scar on that leg for the rest of your life, because there's like, when you have a injury like that, it was like right on the bone. You don't have much muscle or any tissue really to work with. So they said, we'll just be replacing this scar with another scar. It'll be a lesser scar, but a scar no less. I'm like, well, why would I subject myself to more pain? And I'm not even getting rid of the scar. And I'm like, no, it's skin, something, somewhere, somehow. I don't know how, but this will somehow get fixed.
Does this also regenerate nerves?
It does. And the glutathione is very important with regards to that, yeah. So getting back to your issue about glutathione, because glutathione, it has to do with your skin system. It also helps with not just fine lines and wrinkles, but also the texture of your skin, the collagen in your skin. And we have something called the nociceptive system of the body that lay people don't know about. But the nociceptive system, it's one of the 8 neurosomatic systems of the body. And glutathione plays a really important role in your nociceptive system, because that's your ability to feel through your nervous system pain. The pain and sensory receptors in your body, which has to do with not just the neurons in the brain, but the nerves that are throughout your body. So for individuals who have any kind of neurological compromise, anything from, let's say, things like multiple sclerosis to Parkinson's to myasthenia gravis to a syndrome like Guillain-Barré syndrome, they have usually, when they're tested, they have low or no glutathione levels in the body. Just like people who are suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, senility, senescence, they typically have very low or no glutathione levels. The moment you activate your own original natural glutathione levels, then those symptoms start to disappear. Bear in mind, again, these are not made for any of those conditions. So I'm not saying that they're made for any of those conditions. I just want you to be aware that sometimes we have certain manifestations or presentations that are diagnosed and then labeled as this particular condition, this particular disease, and it's because, you know, all diseases, there's something out of balance in the body. Sometimes many things that are out of balance. You know, you get one thing out of balance, it affects another thing, and now you have this domino effect that you have all sorts of different things that are out of balance in the body. Your master smart cells are designed to bring your body into what we call homeostasis, to bring it back into balance. So glutathione is, it's, you know, there's an argument in the scientific and medical community. It's like melatonin is like the most important master antioxidant. And the other 50% are like, no, it's not melatonin. That's pretty important, but more important is glutathione. They're kind of neck and neck. The bottom line is that they're both very important for the body. Melatonin not only regulates the circadian rhythms of the body for your melatonin to put you to sleep, your serotonin to wake you up, but it's also tied to all of the circadian rhythms of all the organ systems of the body. And it's also the master antioxidant that can detox you from any heavy metals of any type. Glutathione is the master antioxidant that's responsible primarily for your immune system. It's your master antioxidant for detoxing as well as increasing your immune system. As far as your master smart cells are concerned, when it comes to immune system and detoxing, it's one and the same. Because if you're exposed to a germ, a virus, or a bacteria, as far as your master smart cells are concerned, those are toxins. Those don't belong in there. They're foreign invaders. There's things that harm and hinder the body, doesn't help the body. So you have to detox through urination, defecation, and perspiration. So it goes immediately to purge that out of the body. And if you have the proper glutathione levels, you'll be fine. If you don't, then then that's throwing everything out of sorts. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing about glutathione, I'm sure we've all heard of glutathione supplementation, not just orally, but they have glutathione, you know, IV drips, which are, I think they're really fantastic. The research studies shows, and a lot of people don't know this, but if you go and look at published research studies about oral supplementation of glutathione, 100% of the time it never works. And that's because the moment your glutathione is a tripeptide, it's a very delicate, powerful but delicate tripeptide. The moment you take an oral supplementation of glutathione and it hits your stomach, the hydrochloric acid destroys that polypeptide. So you get no benefit if you take oral supplementation. It's a waste in every shape or form. If you take an IV, that is a more advisable manner of which to take glutathione because it goes, doesn't matter if you have a good or a bad microbiome, it's not going to get destroyed, right? It's going straight into your bloodstream, so it doesn't have to go through a digestive process. It's literally going through the blood, which is how your body actually does it. Your natural glutathione, your brain, tells your liver, manufacture glutathione. Your liver immediately goes to manufacture the glutathione, and then the glutathione goes through your bloodstream to every single organ of the body and to your skin. Every organ and organ system has glutathione, including the brain. So then it gets distributed throughout. So through an IV, it's going to go straight from your blood, which is the carrier, it's the method of delivery to the rest of the body. So glutathione, the only thing is that through an IV, the thing to note, the reason why this is more powerful than an IV of glutathione is that, let's say you do a 500 milligram drip of glutathione IV. It's going to take about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. It's invasive because they have to put a needle, you know, the IV in your arm. It's uncomfortable. It can be a little painful. You're usually cold because the glutathione is either room temperature or it came out of being in refrigeration. And so it makes your body cold while you're having that glutathione drip. So once that entire bag is emptied out into your system, then that 500 milligrams only lasts in your system for about 7 minutes. After 7 minutes, its half-life is 7 minutes. So from 500 milligrams it'll go to 250 milligrams 7 minutes later, to 125 milligrams another 7 minutes later, until it completely dissipates, and in less than 24 hours. Now, there's still a benefit because there's a lingering effect to the body, but that concentration of 500 milligrams is gone in less than 24 hours. And yet, I've had patients and clients who have gotten, because they had certain diagnoses, they would have 2 glutathione IVs a week to the tune of $480 each IV. You can see how pricey that can get really fast, right? And it did help relieve some of their symptoms, and it did help them, restore. The power in this is that, well, you're going to get an uptick in your natural glutathione 30% every day just wearing this one patch. You wear this one and the glutathione patch, I'll get you in just a moment. The glutathione patch, now you have glutathione levels that are 300 to 600%. Based on, it's tailored to what your original blueprint says for every day you do that moving forward, which is why I wear it every single day. I've never skipped. I don't skip at all, because I understand my liver and my kidneys are working every day. It's not just like every other day or, so, and then we've got all this blue light that is wreaking havoc. These blue lights, LED lights, that destroys your DHA fountain of youth hormone, which is really bad, right? You don't want that being destroyed in your body, but blue lights cause DHA fountain of youth hormone destruction. It increases inflammation and it dysregulates your insulin production. So now you have like this trifecta. It's like a silent thief anytime you're under LED lights, which is almost impossible, I would say, to get away from in this day and age, because over the last 10 years they've made it so that incandescent bulbs are no longer allowed. They want everybody to use LED lighting to save energy, But that wavelength of light, that blue light, is harmful for our bodies. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. How are you doing with your...
The headache, it came down 4 to 1, I would say.
So more than 50%. So,
Yeah.
so that's what every single person that I've touched, like I said, in the United States as well as Europe, and all of in the ice wave clinical study, and one in particular I remember reading, it talked about how this organic nanotechnology that uses traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points, applying photobiomodulation, that all, not a certain percentage, every single, there were 50 research subjects in this particular study, all of them experienced pain relief anywhere from 50 to 100% within 3 to 4 minutes. And every single person that I've done, I had a convention. I was a speaker at an event in Florida last October, in Destin, Florida. And then the gal who had invited me to speak to her group, she saw that at the convention center in Destin, they had some sort of permanent makeup and tattoo convention that was going on. She goes, hey, do you want to go on Friday night? It would be, I said, sure, why not go? So we went there, and everybody that we patched had headaches or backaches, like 100%. We'd ask them, hey, do you have pain anywhere in the body? It's like, oh, I have a migraine. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, it was either headache, migraines, and backaches. It was like we were batting 100. And I was like, can you believe this? Everybody that we're talking to, like 100%. And we're talking from like 20-something-year-olds to on up. So it's not just the people that were middle-aged or, no. I had one gal who was 28, and she said that since she was 5 years old, every day of her life she suffered with migraines. And so I said, are you suffering from a migraine now? She's like, oh yeah. She goes, I can't even turn my head totally to the left or to the right. So I put the patch on her, and then for her it was an immediate. She said immediately, she's like, oh my gosh. She goes, she's like, oh my gosh, where did my headache go? She goes, can it really work that fast? And I said, it turned off your pain receptors. So that's why. And you've got one thing that's repairing immediately the moment it touched your skin, and this turned off your pain receptors. She goes, oh my gosh, those are magic patches. She goes, where do I get them? And I said, yeah, they do work that quick. So that's fantastic. So you're down to a 1 from a 4. That's pretty awesome. We're going to try another person here. Who else has, okay, and what's your pain?
A headache.
You have a headache too?
And back.
And back. You have both. Okay, what's worse? What's the worst of the two?
Head.
The head is worse? Okay. So, let's say if she would have said, she goes, yeah, my headache's bad, but my lower back, that's like, pain level is like 9, 10, excruciating. Whatever's the worst pain in your body, point to the pain and patch it. You take the mother cell activation patch, you put it on there. I had somebody who was here yesterday, and they had like shingles eruptions on one leg. And so I told them, you don't want to put it on the shingles, but next to it, because it was obviously very painful, right? That's nerve damage. So I said, just put it right next to wherever the spot that is the most painful. So we applied that right next to his leg. And then sure enough, he goes, wow. In his case, it wasn't 100% gone. He said, oh, and his pain level was like a 9. He says, oh my gosh, it's maybe a 3 or a 4. He's like, it's almost like, it's such a vast difference, is what he was saying. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you have a headache too, so you say your headache's worse than your back, so we're gonna go ahead and put this one on your neck bump, and then we'll put the ice whip on, so. So see, that's your neck bump. Okay, and now we'll put the ice whip. And as I said before, it's a 2-patch system. We're gonna take the tan patch, and then we'll take the white patch. And what was your first name?
Lynn.
Okay, Lynn. Okay, Lynn. So the tan patch, like I said, tan on left, white on right. So let's put this on your left. And you're gonna wear, so if you recall, I talked about 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Now the research studies, like when you get the instructions of the ice wave patch, all the patches say 12 hours on, 12 hours off. The research studies, I read all 90 research studies, and all the research studies on the ice wave patch, the subjects wore the patches up to 24 hours a day for the first 60 days. So I tell my people, you can keep that on for 24 hours and so then tomorrow at this time you would put another set on. For the next 60 days in a row you can do that. After that, most people after the first 30 to 45 days they don't need this anymore, and then they just keep it on on an as needed basis. If they trip and fall or hit themselves with something or something should happen, they have it. You have like all of a sudden you get a head cold and you have sinus infection and you have head pressure from that. I've had people who put an ice wave on the left and the right next to their nostrils on those. Those are acupuncture points, but just think of your sinuses and it clears their head. So the pain from the pressure, but also it actually will clear you because it's moving energy with the negative and the positive charge. So we're gonna put the other one on the other side here. What would you say your pain level is right now?
6 to 7.
6 to 7 is pretty. I'm sorry that you're having that kind of pain. Okay, Lynn, we'll give it 30 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes. We'll check back with you in a few minutes. Don't know what happened here. Alan?
I think he's in the next room.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so talking about your neck, this gal, she had scoliosis, and after she's wearing 39 and 49. I don't know what all of that means, but ask me about cells and I can help you. When it comes to technology, not so much. Okay, so apparently you can see this fine. So she had severe scoliosis. You can see that her right shoulder is lower than her left shoulder. You can see that she has a nice cinched waist on the right, but not so much on the left. She's wearing 39 up here and ice wave on either side of the spine. I love this advised method of, it's like a triangulation for anybody who has spinal issues. You triangulate with, because she also had a lot of pain between her shoulder blades. So she has a patch here instead of a neck bump, and then on either side of the spine. 4 weeks after starting, you can see how now she has an hourglass shape. You can see how her right and her left shoulder are more balanced. Her spine isn't perfectly aligned yet. In time it will be. But just in 4 weeks, you see how that's a significant improvement. Her pain level was drastically down. You could see how her shoulder blades, because of her misalignment, were protruding, they were sticking out. And you could see how much more normalized her scapulas, both of her shoulder blades are, in just 4 weeks. It's not very long. You would think that the bones would take much longer for you to see something like that, maybe 6 months or so, or even 9 months. And you can see that in 4 months, but you're signaling the body 12 hours every day. That's 33%. Think about, right now we have 100% of the lights on, but if we turn all the lights off and only put 33%, that would light up a majority of this room, right? So that's one way of thinking of it. We have this gentleman who had the dysregulation of melatonin. Melatonin, of course, is what gives our skin color, gives our eyes color, our hair color. We talked about how it's the master antioxidant that resets our circadian rhythms, not just of our melatonin and serotonin cycles, but also for the other organ systems of the body. So this gentleman, over the course of the year, this is when he started, he looked like this, and you can start to see the progression, you see the improvement. You can see the texture of his skin's changed too, right? And then at the end of the year, he no longer had, the vitiligo, the dysregulation of his skin. This is what we can see from the outside, because what the picture can't tell you is some of the other, when you have melatonin dysregulation, it affects your eyesight, it affects all sorts of other things. So he was much healthier after being on these patches for a year as opposed to when he started off. Not to mention that he didn't anti-age, he reversed age. Because with our patches, for every 4 weeks that you are on the patches, because you have this rapid repair going on, your cardiovascular system is 2 months younger for every 4 weeks that you're on the patches. So that's a pretty dramatic improvement. So over the course of a year, your cardiovascular system is anywhere from 16 to 20 years younger. Okay. So here, this is actually a friend of mine, Kathy. She lives in Nevada. She's a world record holder for all sorts of skydiving feats and so forth. And when we started her off on patches, she had severe autoimmune disorder, and she had a lot of pains and a lot of dysregulation in her body. And so you can't see that from the picture, but when we started her, she was one of the most cynical people you could ever imagine. She goes, wait a minute. For 33 years, I've been suffering with autoimmune disorder from 3 breast implants. I've traveled all over the United States trying to find someone who will just give me a little bit of relief, not to mention, repair this issue that I got going on. And you're telling me that this little sticky Band-Aid, that sticker? She goes, you've got to be kidding me. She goes, there's no way that can work. We're like, there's 90 independent clinical studies. This is activating your stem cells. She goes, I don't care if you're calling them stem cells or honky cells or that cells or that. She goes, it's a sticker. It's like, how could a sticker do anything? We're like, listen, you've tried all this other stuff. This is like $5 a patch. Just commit for the next year, 12 hours every day. You already drink a ton of water because you're very athletic. So just keep drinking the water and put the patches every day, and remember to take them off after 12 hours. Can you do that? She's like, you know what? I've paid way more for other stuff. What have I got to lose? I only have something to gain. I can't lose anything. So she did it and tried to get her profile picture, but there's no way. She's like, no profile pictures. She goes, but I'll take pictures. Because we told her, take the picture now and every 30 days thereafter so you can chart your progress, because otherwise it's kind of hard to tell. Because you don't notice, sometimes people notice in you the changes because you see yourself every day, you don't notice. So luckily she did that. So that was January 2022. She was 62, she's now 64. January 2022, she had a lot of wrinkles. She's in the sun all the time because she's a skydiver, right? Professional skydiver. So this is what she looked like in 2022. In March, a lot of the wrinkles went away. She still has some wrinkles, and not fine lines, deep lines, right? By June, all the wrinkles are gone, and she still just has a hint of lines. By July, fine lines, wrinkles gone. We don't have a picture of the 4th month, but in her 4th month, her husband's the one who said, hey, babe, look at your torso, look at your arms, because you no longer have creepy skin. And she looked and she's like, oh my gosh, you're right, I don't have creepy skin. And this is what she looks like now, because this picture was in July. So in October, she posted on her Facebook, and when I saw it, it was just this. And I'm like, called her. I'm like, can you jump on a Zoom right now? She's like, yeah. Jumped on the Zoom, and I said, oh my gosh, Kathy. I go, your pictures are amazing. I'm gonna forward it and share it on my Facebook page. Of course, if I were a friend of a friend, seeing this, I'd go, Photoshop. There's no way this can really be this way. I said, would you be willing to come on a Zoom just like this phone call? And then I can share your entire story. Because one of the things that happened to her before she started on the patches on top of the autoimmune disorder that she had was she was in a skydiving accident. And so when I had her on, she actually shared that. When the accident happened, her fellow mates that were skydiving with her, they didn't even run to her because they said they assumed she has to be dead. So they just walked over there, but they didn't even run over. And the long story short, that the injuries that she sustained from that, as well as her autoimmune disorder, as well as, because your stem cells don't care what it's repairing. We care about how we look, but your stem cells don't care. It's going to repair anything that's damaged. The only reason you have fine lines on your face and that aging look is because you have oxidative stress. So that's damage and inflammation in the body. But your stem cells go to take care of that. How are you feeling now?
It's less.
If you were to give it a number.
5.
Okay, so from a 7 down to a 5, that's pretty darn good. So give it a few, and it'll just continue to get better. So you can wear these patches till tomorrow at this time, and the one on your neck bump, before you go to sleep tonight, just take it off. Okay. So, long story short, I did the YouTube, and if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I have a short, and you'll see that in the video, she looks just like this, because anybody could argue, I would have argued, oh, she must have touched this up. You'll see in the video, she looks exactly like this. And to me, she looks like she's 35, 40 years old. She does not look like a 64-year-old. That's a 64-year-old. I think this is, yeah. Okay, so this is, yeah. Here we go. So this is my story. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you could always go to not just my YouTube channel, but a lot of other YouTubers have interviewed me about. Because, again, I had brain damage. When I was hit by a bus just 3 blocks shy of finishing that 16-mile bike ride, I lost all my short-term memory. I had no short-term memory. If I saw you 15 minutes before, and you came back 15 minutes later, it's like, oh, did you, do whatever it was that we agreed to? I'd go, what are you talking about? This is the first time I'm seeing you today. You're like, no, 15 minutes ago. I'm like, you weren't here 15 minutes ago. I'm like, no, but I said da-da-da. I go, it didn't exist. So I had recovered other people's memory prior to having the patches with my brain repatterning. So as I started realizing, I'm like, wait a minute, all these people keep on, the common denominator is me. They've got to be right. I'm the one who has to be wrong. I was so caught up with the pain that I had from my injuries for the first few years, I was unaware. I'm sure my neurologist must have told me, I had more than one, must have told me that I had no short-term memory. But because you have no short-term memory, you have no recollection of it, right? Kind of weird. Kind of a bizarre thing. But it gave me a greater understanding and empathy for my patients, because I have a lot of them who've had TBIs, whether they get it from general anesthetics or they've had it from accidents like I had. Either way, I realized not only how to create systems to be more supportive so that they can recall, because otherwise whatever I tell them today, as soon as we're done talking, it's like it never happened. So I've had to put things in place to be more supportive and effective for their benefit, right? So long story short, not only did I get my short-term memory back, but the day I told you guys about that ICE wave, the pain management patch research paper, I was reading the research paper, I set the paper down, and I was like really impressed with the keywords. If you read research papers, they're anywhere from like 3-4 pages to like, they could be 50 pages long. But this one was like a 3-page report. It was very simple, easy, concise. The keywords were very accurate. And of all the papers that I had read, I said, wow, these are great keywords. It was organic, nanotechnology, photobiomodulation, and TCM acupuncture points. I'm like, that really encapsulates really what this patch is, right? And then I read the abstract, and the abstract said that the ICE wave photobiomodulation organic nanotechnology using traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points created effective pain management and reduction in all of the subjects within 3 to 4 minutes, 50 to 100% relief. And I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta memorize this. I gotta be able to recite this and share this with others. So I took the paper, because my MO prior to that was, I was gonna not only have it printed, highlight it. I knew I still needed to highlight it, I needed to outline it, and I needed to write it 3 to 5 times over and over and over again, say it out loud so I could not just learn it, but memorize it and recall and recite it. So I put the paper down, and this was between my 3rd and 4th week wearing the patches. And then that very afternoon, because I read the paper in the morning, I'm on some Zoom calls, and one of the people there asked me some questions about the pain management. I could not only see the paper, but it effortlessly came out of my mouth. And my first thought was like, oh my gosh, I got my memory back. And my memory is as good as it was when I was pre-med at USC. And as soon as I thought that, I remembered when I was 5 years old, I had had eye surgery my kindergarten year. In the month of November, I spent a week in the hospital. My eyes were patched because I had both muscles, the left and the right eye, had surgery. And I realized, oh my gosh, when I was 5, that was my first traumatic brain injury. Because anytime you undergo general anesthetics, you suffer an inadvertent TBI. And any anesthesiologist, one of my partners is an anesthesiologist, he will concur. But there are 4 things that all anesthesiologists do to you when they put you under. First thing is they wipe out your memory, amnesia. 2, hypnosis. 3, analgesia, which is turning off your pain receptors. And then 4 is paralysis. They paralyze your body so that the surgeon can do their precise work. You're not going to hiccup, you're not going to sneeze, you're not going to move at all. They can do their precise work. And then they lower your vitals. It's basically, they don't call it that, but basically it's a medically induced coma that's controlled. They're putting you under, and you have no recollection when you come back of anything, right? And the amnesia, the wiping out of your memory, it's not malicious. It's because our bodies, the way the brain and the body works, the brain will file, like any trauma, like when you're cut into your body because of a surgeon cutting, making an incision, that's traumatic to the body. So the brain will file the memory on the left hemisphere of the brain, a portion of it, it's kind of like a little fractals back there. And then the energetic stress from being cut into, which is a trauma, it's an energy of tension in your body. And so they wipe out your memory so you don't have something, we call this an AB reaction, where it's basically a form of PTSD. You can have a panic attack and post-traumatic stress because your body still has the memory of that trauma, and so you still have that energy in all of your muscles from the neck down. So that's going to make it harder for you to recover because you have that kind of going on. So they just wipe that out because they don't really know, they don't really have any other way of dealing with it. So now you have a better chance of recovering. So you suffer a TBI for every hour that you're under general anesthetics. You have the deprivation of oxygen to the brain because they lower your heart rate, your blood pressure, your brain waves, your oxygenation level. And so that's why people who have had longer surgeries, like we had a guy who I happened to have done, for those of you who are interested in information having to do with the brain, I did a documentary called Quiet Explosions Healing the Brain. And I was one of the associate producers on that. And one of the things that we discovered that we were able to share with the public is that anyone who undergoes general anesthetics, you suffer a TBI. So to date in my practice, the person with the most TBIs that I've ever had is 55, because he had 55 surgeries after he's a police officer. There was an accident where his leg was almost severed, and because of that, all the surgeries that it took to put his leg back together again was 55. So we had 55 TBIs plus the accident, so 56 total TBIs. And we were able to, in less than a year, he had them, like, most of his TBI symptoms were gone in less than a year. And for myself, between the 3rd and 4th week is when I noticed a difference where, oh my gosh, it took 0 effort for me. I didn't have to memorize, I didn't have to learn, I just instantly recalled the moment I needed it was there. And now I remember all sorts of things that I don't need to remember, but it's a present and a pleasant surprise when I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I remember this person started on August 8th. This person, it's like their birthday is this date, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, it just makes things easier, right? Okay, sorry to keep on. So this gal, Gail Henry, she had really bad she'd had scoliosis since she was a teenager. She had severe curvature of the spine, so much so that you could see that she has a fold of flesh. That's how severe the fold, the curvature of her spine was. You can also see, if you notice her skin, she has not only freckles, but some moles and some cholesterol spots and these things that we call angiomas, which are basically little blood-filled like moles. You can see that after just less than 2 months, the curvature of her spine is improved, but the flesh fold is gone. You can also see that the texture of her skin is improved. And that's just 2 months of being on the patches. And at this point, she's not wearing Ice Wave anymore after 2 months. She says, I don't need, at the beginning, she definitely needed to use the Ice Wave all the time. But after 2 months, she goes, I really don't. She goes, my back doesn't bother me. It's so much better. She could actually bend over. She could walk without, issues and so forth. So she had a significant amount of improvement. Okay, so the bottom line, for those of you who would like to have a text of this, just text this number, give me 24 hours to get back to you. But these are the bullet points, and it just tells you, for those of you who want the super summarized version, who just want the bottom line, this restores your body to a younger, healthier state by activating a third of your original master smart cells. That's the short version. For those of you who are more detail-oriented, and maybe you're a fellow neuro nerd like I am, this is what it does specifically. It regenerates cells replacing damaged cells. It restores collagen, because collagen is the #1 building block protein. It rebuilds scar tissue by replacing the scar tissue with the original tissue, which is why my scar disappeared. Thank goodness for that. It reduces fine lines and wrinkles, because it's going to eliminate anything that has inflammation, oxidative stress. Increases your energy, your sexual libido, antioxidants, anti-aging, your anti-inflammatories. It's going to give you pain relief within 50 to 100% in 3 to 4 minutes. Improves hair growth. Oh, I didn't tell you guys. The other thing is, my point of impact was the back of my head and literally my lower back. So for 5 years, I had a bald spot that was the size of my palm. And I had gone to, who is now part of my business, Dr. Galley, who's a regenerative medicine doctor, originally an anesthesiologist. I had gone to him, and he had given me, I want to call it a recipe, but it was basically a prescription for a compound formula specific, for myself, to help regrow the hair in the back of my head. And I would put that recipe or that potion on my head, and for 5 years I had that bald spot. It just would not grow until I started on the patches. And in the 4th month, I started my patches in June, and in October, I was amazed that I had 70% hair growth. My hairdresser is the one who noticed. He goes, wow. He goes, you don't have your big bald spot back here anymore. He goes, it's like 70% hair growth, and you got about 3 to 4 inches of hair growth. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I was touching back there. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And to this day, I still have more, because I lost 50% of my hair with that accident. And now my hair was dry, coarse, and brittle. And in 4 to 5 months, my hair became soft, smooth, and silky, which I would have thought if that was going to happen, it would probably take over a year, because my focus was the brain injury and the neck and the back, right? And then even the leg was kind of a secondary thing. It was such a bonus that your stem cells are so smart, and it knows how to allocate energy and replacement at exactly where you need it, with priority to maintain your vitality, right? So that was awesome, the improved hair growth, and everybody gets, I sleep like a baby. I never wake up in the middle of the night. This, because you can only activate GHKC copper peptide in REM sleep. So the patches will get you into a REM state of sleep where you have deeper, sounder sleep. Now, I've had men who they were getting up 5 times a night to go to the bathroom. And for example, one guy, Michael Mano, who's from Texas, he's like, after 10 days, he's like, Lillian, 2 things I got to tell you about these patches. These patches work. And I'm like, I go, yeah, Michael, I know they work. That's why we put you on them. And he said, but no, listen to this. He goes, first of all, I was waking up 5 times a night to go to the bathroom. And every night when I'd wake up, it would take me an hour to an hour and a half to fall back asleep again. He goes, now I wake up, I go to the bathroom. As soon as my head hits the pillow, he goes, boom, I'm immediately back to sleep again. He goes, total game changer. because he wakes up now refreshed instead of groggy, right? I'm like, whoa, that's a big difference. It doesn't, he's not tossing and turning for an hour, hour and a half in between each time. Then the second thing he told me, he goes, I didn't get started on these patches for this. He goes, but since I was 18, I've been suffering with toenail fungus. And he goes, this is the 10th day of my being on the patches. 9.5 of my 10 toes no longer have toenail fungus. I said, really? He goes, yep, I only have half a nail on one foot left. And he goes, I'm sure that'll be gone in the next month. And I'm like, whoa, you're the first person I have that had toenail fungus that I know of that's reporting that now that's gone. So that's, in short order, what the patches do. We do have a show special here. Before we go on, I did mention how we apply them on traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points. Of course, we do patch placement with anybody and everybody that comes on. But the best rule of thumb is point to the pain and patch it. If you have pain anywhere on the body, point to the pain. If you have discomfort, if you have pressure, take that mother cell activation patch, preferably the mother and the daughter cell activation patch. Apply that in that spot. And if you have ice pick, then of course add ice pick, but that does wonders because it's actually doing repair at a cellular level. It increases your bone density, your muscle mass and strength, and all sorts of things. So this is just showing you, this is a fantastic five, which we don't have time to talk about today, but I'm showing here the mother, the daughter, the glutathione, carnosine, and EM. Those are the three master antioxidants of the body. And so we don't have protocols because only pharmaceuticals can, cure and heal and offer protocols. But we do have recommendations. And so our Veritas Concilium, which is just a true plan of action, is to put them on your neck bump. You can put them in a row. I've had people who've had compromises to their respiration. I had a gal who actually was admitted to the hospital because she couldn't breathe because she had that big C thing that's been going around for the last 4 years. And I said, well, do you have your patches with you? And she says, yes. I go, take all of them and put them on your chest, put them in a circle on your chest. Within minutes, her breathing cleared up, and then she was let go. She was able to go home. And since then, I've had so many other people who've had breathing issues and so forth. You just put them in a circle, and it just clears things up because of the rapid repair that's taking place, okay? Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. It has an anti-inflammatory effect. Does it have any effect on parasites, bacteria, fungus? Well, obviously
Because of
fungus.
fungus, molds, bacteria, viruses, yes. The answer is yes. Again, your immune system and your glutathione levels are tied to detoxing you from those things. So you're going to urinate, defecate, and perspire it out. Those are the three, sweat, pee, and poop it out. When you have the proper amount of glutathione, your body recognizes that those parasites, whether they're regular parasites that are detected in stool or blood test, or if they're intracellular parasites, which are much harder to detect, but a lot of people have, the glutathione levels are going to, because it's boosting your immune system, 300 to 600%, it's going to purge the body from that. I still recommend people still do parasite cleanses at least 3-4 times a year, like once a quarter, and detox baths, just because we have so many toxins in our environment that we're unaware of.
Was that the X39 patch that got rid of the fungus, toenail fungus?
Yes, he was on the mother and the daughter stem cell activation patch, but yeah, because this is the mother patch is the one that increases it by 30%. Yeah.
What's the mother and what's the daughter?
So there's a mother cell activation patch, that's this patch.
Yeah.
And then there's 49, which is the daughter. The daughter's cell activation patch, it also protects you not only from the LED lights, but from radiation poisoning. It creates a Faraday cage. In fact, if you go to my team that's downstairs at the exhibition booth, they'll actually show you how before you get patched, they'll call you on the cell phone, they'll do a test and see what your strength of your muscles are, and you'll see that you're strong. Then we call you on your cell phone, and of course you lose your strength. Then we do the same thing after we put the 49 patch on you, and you're still strong, because it protects you against EMS, LED lights, radiation poisoning, and increases muscle mass and strength and bone density. So that patch for not just athletes, but people who have any kind of structural issues is phenomenal. But to answer you, yeah, glutathione is gonna help with the detoxification of parasites. Anything that takes away from the body that's toxifying you by whatever means, germ, virus, bacteria, parasites, it's going to help with that, yeah.
What is your website?
Website, we have an educational site, which I'm gonna share with you right now. We want to show, so typically, like I was mentioning, we talked a little bit about this, I think we're starting to run a little short on time. Who has the time right now?
Yeah, it is, almost 11.
Almost 11? Okay.
10:53.
10:53, okay, so I have a few more minutes left. Go ahead.
What kind of investigation should be done before this patch to be aware this can stimulate their own cancer cells?
So, yeah, that's a very common question. Your original blueprint didn't have cancer cells in it. So it doesn't, I've had people with stage 4 cancer who had it metastasized into the bones, who were told chemo didn't work, radiation didn't work, you will have X amount of time to live, there's nothing else we can do for you. And I have PET scans to show that they have no traces of cancer anywhere in the body. So men, women, doesn't matter what type of cancer, whether it's metastasized or not. So it does not proliferate and increase your cancer cells. On the contrary, it purges them. Because it's increasing your glutathione levels.
How about oxide crystal clear?
What about it? It's gonna detox you from anything that doesn't give you, anything that doesn't give the body energy and power, anything that's out of balance, it's gonna get rid of it and it's gonna bring it back to homeostasis. So for example, I had a 21 and a 25-year-old and their mother, all three of them got started on the patches. The mother had autoimmune disorder, she had lupus, Lyme, rheumatoid arthritis, and she had long haulers COVID. Terrible pain from arthritis. And her daughter and son, both, Grace, who's 25, and her son, Jake, who's 21, both of them were born with spherocytosis from the time they were born. But before they were both 10 years old, they both had their gallbladders removed. Long story short, we started on the patches in 2021, May of 2021. Jake, let's just focus on Jake because it's easier than to track 3 people. So Jake, when he went back to school in August, he was a senior in the university and he was on the men's golf team. So when he came home at Christmas time, April said to him, Jake, are you still eating clean? Because the 3 of them, their bodies were so reactive and so sensitive, they had to eat a whey-free, fat-free, sugar-free, gluten-free diet, and any little variation, both Jake and Grace, every single month from the time they were babies, they never ever went 30 days without being hospitalized. So now, since being on the patches, they were not being hospitalized anymore. So Jake told April, I'll never forget, Jake tells his mom, April, he's like, to tell you the truth, Mom, no, I don't really have to eat clean. I mean, I eat clean when I can, but to tell you the truth, now I eat, when we're on the golf tournaments, we have pizza and we have beer, and turns out I really like Chick-fil-A. So, and my body is fine. I don't have any reactions. So they've been out of the hospital since June or July of 2021. And now Jake is now in chiropractic school, and Grace is now working with her mom, and she's April's a blood specialist. She's part of because we have about 1,000 doctors in our medical group. So, yeah. So yeah, anything, even strange, like here in California, we don't talk about this in public circles, and I think it needs to be talked about more. But 14, 15 years ago, we had the Fukushima trifecta. They had that massive earthquake, they had the tsunami, and they had that nuclear meltdown. That nuclear meltdown it's never been contained. It's still leaking all sorts of radioactive material, and it's not contained there to Japan. Our radiation levels both in Hawaii and the United States went through the roof in the months after that event, and it hasn't stopped. And if you have any kind of presence in Hawaii or friends that live in Hawaii, you know about a lot of the different health things that they've been struggling with for the past 15 years. They didn't have it 15 years ago, but they're the first group of American, territories that get hit with the radioactive materials because that travels through the Pacific Ocean. all the way, like our mortality rates for infants and for elderly went over 85%. There was like an 85% increase right after that happened, okay? And so, like all of the water supplies, like municipal water supplies here in California that I've checked, they all have radioactive materials. We're like, oh my gosh. So you have to take measures, you know, this is gonna help. But you do have to take measures to offset that type of stuff, you know? So, again, those aren't things that are beneficial to the body, so your body has a natural detoxification process to purge those things from you. If the payload, and if it's too much for your liver and for your kidneys to take care of that detoxification, then your skin, it brings it through the skin because it can't urinate and defecate it out. And so then that's why now your skin has all these different eruptions trying to purge it, you know, whatever it is that can't be inside. When it comes to parasites, your body will encapsulate, like we've seen people who have, they literally, depending on whether you're looking at a parasitologist or if you're looking at an oncologist will say it's a tumor inside the bone. A parasitologist will say it's like, oh, those are parasites that your body has to protect itself. It's encapsulated it into, you know, with a sac to contain that parasite so it's not like spread all over. And so when you increase your level of glutathione, even if it's in the bones, that's gonna get pulled out. Yeah. So.
I've had an ongoing sinus infection, and I've been on antibiotics twice, and it hasn't cleared it. And the doctor says, well, you probably need surgery. And, you know, I'm wondering if I could use these patches here
Oh, of course.
for the sinuses.
I mentioned that earlier, that if you have like a sinus infection, you can take the mother cell activation patch and then you put on either side of, because you have sinuses that are like around here and here. So I've had people who put it like right here and they're like, oh my gosh, I was struggling with this for 2, 3, 4 weeks. As soon as they put it on, within the first 24 hours, they're like, what a relief. And so they put it on.
So just the X39 on one side?
I would still put the 39 on your neck bump, but I would put Ice Wave instead of your temples. I would put it here. Yeah. So, and it'll clear it up. Yeah, it actually does.
I'd rather do that than surgery.
Yeah, because you're such a last resort,
Really.
Yeah, it's definitely not as harmful to your body. And again, you're signaling your own body with you know, we have infrared light devices which work, but we're using our own infrared light here, and it's being redirected. These are like just like you put solar panels on a house to get energy from the sun, and then the inside of the house benefits. The same thing here. These are like solar panels. You put it on your body, it's redirecting the infrared light back into your body because it has a very specific geometrical grid pattern, and because each one of the crystals are programmed with frequencies, boom, you have the cellular activation. And it goes down to the mitochondrial level of the body. So it's not just at the cellular, people tend to think at the cellular level, but I try to bring people down to, like, that's why I show it's like inside your cells you have this mitochondria, and mitochondria is what produces energy for the body. Okay. So the blue light in this room causes, like I said, the DHEA fountain of youth hormone. Like just as we're sitting here, not me because I'm wearing the patches and not you because you're wearing the patches and you too, but for the rest of you, this causes the destruction of your DHEA fountain of youth hormone. It causes insulin resistance and it causes inflammation of the body. And so I also try to prep my people, especially people who have more severe conditions and they're gonna go fly. I'm like, wait a minute, anytime you're 35,000 feet up in the air, you have much more radiation exposure than you do on the ground level. So if you have multiple systems that are compromised, organ systems in the body, some people, like I had one gal, a retired nurse from Australia, it's a long flight from Australia to the States, and she had myocarditis. And she ended up where she had an event on the plane where they literally had to take her by out on a gurney, and she ended up being in the hospital when she landed in San Francisco. And I try to bring people's awareness to the fact that, like, if you have to drink more than 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water. And
In what period of time?
In absolute time.
In what period of time?
Oh, from the time you wake up until you go to sleep.
50%?
50% your weight in fluid ounces. So if you're a 150-pound person, that means 75 ounces, which is like 5 water bottles. That's like 2 bottles in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 1 at night. Very doable, right? But if you're flying, you get dehydrated far more because of not only the radiation, the pressurized cabin, all those LED lights. So I tell people you have to get up at least once an hour because you want to keep your circulation going. Go to the front of the plane, go to the bathroom, get water, come back. An hour later, go to the back of the plane, go to the bathroom, get more water. Do that every hour. I don't care if you're doing a 4-hour flight or if you're doing a 10-hour flight or a 23-hour flight, because you need that to maintain the balance in your body. You want to keep properly hydrated. And you want to be circulating where you're not sitting stagnant. You want your lymphatic system to be activated as well. Because that's why a lot of people get sick also when they travel. It's because of the bombardment of those factors that I just talked about. You can offset that. And then of course taking a little bit of nascent iodine, 2-3 drops under your tongue when you're traveling. If you're really afraid that it's a place where you might have a lot of germs and stuff, you can take a drop on your finger and rub it on the inside of your nose, and then it'll kill everything. Like, not any, I don't want to name any particular virus, but you can look up the research and you'll see that it kills pretty much everything.
If you are treating cartilage for both knees,
You can regrow it.
you can be, it's been treated with the same patches also against the melatonin, or?
Yeah, so if you have, I had plenty of people who either needed hip replacement or they needed knee replacement. They wore the patches and then they grew back their cartilage, they torn meniscus, it's grown back where they didn't need to have surgery. Yeah.
So it's not even needed for.
Because it's turning on your original blueprint.
Yeah, so for the cartilage, it's not even needed then to inject with stem cells, you can just do it with the patches then?
Yeah, this had a longer lasting effect, because I've had people who had stem cell by either IV or through injection, and in time, because it's only a one-time injection, this is signaling for 12 hours every day. At the end of the first year, if you're wearing these for 12 hours every day, that's 4,123 hours in the first year alone of signaling your stem cells instead of just having a one-time event. So that will help 50% of the time. It will help 50% of the time your body will reject it, right? Unless you're using your own. If you're using your own, if they take out your blood, they centrifuge it, and then put the stem cells back in from the plasma, then it's 100% acceptance because it's you. But if you're over 60 years old, you only have 10% of your stem cells to begin with. Here you're going to have 43, because it'll be your 10 plus 33% more. That's why this is more powerful.
And most of the stem cells are behind in the spine, or?
They're throughout your body.
They are everywhere?
They're everywhere. When you're first born, they're created with your genes.
Yeah.
You have 23,688 genes and stem cells. That's what's forming you in your mother's womb.
So we're just after 11 and I'm supposed to come after you, so
Okay.
are we close?
We're done, I think.
Great.
Let me see here. For those of you who want to know what it costs, we can't charge you $1 million. Obviously, although plenty of people would pay $1 million to restore their health. Traditional stem cell therapy, like he was talking about, can cost $8,000 to $25,000 for an IV or an injection session. This, for the cost of a Starbucks coffee a day, it's $5 a day. Normally, a 30-day supply, this is $149, so for 2 of them, that's $300 a month. We have a show special where for $299, you can get 3 of these, or you can get 2 of these and an ice wave, or you can do the mother, the daughter. You'll get 4 of them for the price of 2. So that's a special price of $299. We have many people who ask about bulk pricing. You save about 50% if you want to get bulk pricing. That's instead of almost $3,000 for that package, it's $1,599.
I'm interested in X39.
Okay, if you would like, let me finish this here. I want to thank you guys for being here.
It was a wonderful presentation.
I want to I have a little gift for you guys, and be careful when you open these, because some of you are going to have a little key. Not all of you, but some of you will have a key. If you have a key, then please text me a picture of the key, and you get an additional gift. So, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. Would you pass to the gentleman back there? that, I hope you guys all get a key. And you need that, Alan, to
I know, I don't know where you